Michael's mornings always started the same way. Sunlight crept through the blinds of his small, cluttered apartment, but he rarely noticed. His phone buzzed with notifications, group chats he no longer replied to, news he didn't care about, job alerts he ignored. Most days he didn't get out of bed until noon. There was no urgency in his life, no clock ticking, no destination waiting, just silence, wrapped in soft blankets, and a quiet shame he never spoke of. In his 20s, he told himself it was just a phase. He was taking a break, figuring things out. 1 month turned into a year, then several more. His resume was a half-empty page, his fridge filled with takeout boxes, his ambition buried beneath video games and endless scrolling. His parents stopped asking questions years ago. They sent money each month, their voices tied over the phone, but never cruel. They loved him. Maybe that's what made it worse. Because deep down, Michael knew. He wasn't resting. He was hiding. The walls of his apartment felt safe but hollow, like a room designed not to be disturbed. He avoided mirrors, not because he disliked how he looked, but because his eyes told the truth. They were tired, not from labor, but from doing nothing. And doing nothing over time is a kind of labor too, the kind that exhausts the soul. Outside, life moved. Old friends posted wedding photos, job promotions, baby pictures. Michael muted most of them, not out of envy, but because each post was a reminder of how far he'd drifted from who he once thought he'd be. He sometimes thought about change. Maybe tomorrow he'd apply for a job. Maybe next week he'd fix the broken shelf. But those thoughts dissolved, like breath on glass, fragile, momentary. Then there was Mr. Carter. The old man lived upstairs, retired mechanic, always doing something, sanding wood, fixing bikes for neighbor kids, hauling groceries for widowed tenants. He greeted Michael every now and then with a raised brow and a simple nod. Michael, embarrassed by his own lethargy, usually nodded back quickly and slipped inside. One afternoon, as Michael struggled to carry 2 bags of fast food up the stairs, Mr. Carter called down from his porch. "You sure you're not tired of that yet?" Michael blinked up at him, confused. "This life," the old man said, "that weight you're dragging every day, it's not in the bags." Michael laughed awkwardly, unsure of how to respond, but that sentence stuck. Later that night, sitting in the dim light of his living room, the words returned. "That weight you're dragging, it wasn't about food. It wasn't even about his body. It was about the years he'd let slip through his fingers." And suddenly the silence in the room didn't feel peaceful. It felt like morning. The next morning, Michael stood by his window, coffee in hand, watching Mr. Carter sweep the front steps. The old man moved with purpose, not hurried, but deliberate. There was something steady about him, something that felt like gravity. Michael didn't know why, but he went outside. He offered to help sweep, but Mr. Carter just pointed to a worn bench nearby. "Sit," he said. "You look heavier today." Michael raised an eyebrow. "Not your body," Carter added. "Your mind. Your time." There was no judgment in his voice, just a quiet knowing, like he'd seen this before. Michael sat. The broom scratched across the pavement as Carter continued. "You know what I did for 40 years? Fixed broken things, engines, bikes, appliances. But the hardest thing to fix is a man who forgets he matters." Michael said nothing, but his fingers clenched. "Young men think they have forever," Carter continued, "but you blink and a decade is gone. Then you spend the next one trying to forgive yourself." It wasn't harsh, it was honest, and it cracked something open in Michael. Later that day, he stood in his living room surrounded by the quiet ruins of his habits, piles of dishes, unopened letters, the stale smell of neglect. He picked up the trash, then the clothes. He opened the windows. The air felt different. It wasn't transformation. It was the first breath after surfacing. That evening, he knocked on Mr. Carter's door. "Teach me something," he said. Mr. Carter handed him a rusted bicycle from the shed. "Fix this. No instructions, just try." Michael struggled. He bent the wrong parts, lost screws, got grease all over his clothes. But Carter watched patiently. Each day, Michael returned, sometimes to help, sometimes just to listen. And slowly, routines formed. He began waking up earlier, not because he had to, but because he wanted to see if he could. He stopped ordering food and learned to cook simple meals. He started applying for jobs, got rejected, applied again. The rejections didn't sting as much as the silence once had. One afternoon, as they finished fixing an old scooter, Mr. Carter handed Michael a card. "Shop downtown. Friend of mine needs an apprentice." Michael stared at it, heartbeat loud in his ears. "You're not broken, son," Carter said, "just rusty." Michael got the job. It didn't pay much, and it wasn't glamorous. But each day, he came home with sore hands and a calm heart. He was becoming someone. Weeks later, he visited his parents. He didn't ask for money. He just hugged them and said, "I'm trying now." His mother cried. Michael's life didn't become extraordinary, but it became his. He found meaning not in big wins, but in showing up. And now, when he hears the buzz of his phone, he doesn't scroll. He just gets up, because he finally knows the value of time and hard work. Sometimes, the greatest victories happen quietly, when a person chooses to stand, to begin again, to value what was once wasted. Michael's story isn't about perfection. It's about motion, about reclaiming what we can and learning that purpose isn't found. It's built, one honest day at a time. We all carry weights only we can see, but time, once honored, becomes the light that helps us rise. If this story stirred something in you, share it with someone who needs it. Like, comment, and subscribe to stay close to stories that remind us we're never as stuck as we think.